My name is Robert James Caldwell. I'm 44 years old, and I've spent nearly 2 decades turning empty lots into communities, vacant spaces into homes where families build their lives. While other architects chased flashy commercial projects and award recognition, I specialized in something more meaningful, affordable housing developments that actually worked for the people who lived in them. Christine Walsh delivered the news in her corner office at Morrison Development Group, surrounded by scale models of luxury condominiums and shopping centers. She was 33, hired 9 months ago as head of design operations after Morrison acquired our smaller firm, Caldwell and Associates Residential Design. Her voice carried the practiced efficiency of someone who delivered this speech before. I sat in that chrome and glass office 23 floors above downtown Denver and simply nodded. I understand. The HR representative, a fidgety man named Paul, explained severance packages and non-compete agreements while Christine scrolled through emails on her laptop. When they asked if I had questions, I shook my head. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said, standing up. 18 years was a good run. Christine's smile was perfectly calibrated, sympathetic but final. She thought I was taking it well, broken, and ready to quietly fade away like the other residential specialists she'd eliminated since the acquisition. What she didn't know was that for the past year, ever since Morrison started circling our firm like a corporate vulture, I had been quietly preparing for this exact moment. Not out of paranoia, but out of experience. I'd seen enough small architectural firms get swallowed by development giants to recognize the pattern. I walked back to my drafting table for the last time as a Morrison employee. 18 years of blueprints, site plans, and community designs reduced to a cardboard box. The framed photo of my late father's first construction crew went into my briefcase. He taught me that buildings are only as good as the people who care about them. The hard drives full of proprietary designs stayed exactly where they were. Let them figure out what those encrypted CAD files actually contained. My phone buzzed. A text from Miguel Santos at Front Range Construction. Heard some changes at Morrison. "You doing all right, man?" I typed back, "All good, Miguel. Might have some interesting news for you soon." Christine walked through the design floor later that afternoon, making notes on her tablet, probably calculating how much office space she could reclaim. She had no idea what she had just unleashed. Caldwell and Associates started in 2005, right after my father died, and left me enough money for a down payment on a small office space in Capitol Hill. I had a simple philosophy: design housing that real people could actually afford to live in, built by contractors who took pride in their work. My first major project was Maple Grove Commons, a 48-unit affordable housing development in Aurora. The city had been struggling with a proposal for years. Every major firm had submitted designs that looked good in presentations but would have cost twice the available budget. I spent 3 months walking the neighborhood, talking to families who would potentially live there, understanding what they actually needed. The breakthrough wasn't architectural genius, it was common sense. Instead of trying to cram luxury amenities into a budget development, I designed practical spaces that maximized livability. Efficient floor plans, quality materials that would age well, community spaces that encouraged neighbors to actually interact. The project came in 15% under budget and won a state award for innovative affordable housing design. Word spread through Denver's affordable housing community. Housing authorities, nonprofit developers, and community organizations started calling. While the big firms competed for high-profile downtown towers, I built my reputation one neighborhood at a time. Over 18 years, I designed over 2,000 units of affordable housing across Colorado. But the real foundation of my success wasn't the buildings, it was the relationships. With contractors who understood that cutting corners on affordable housing was morally inexcusable. With city planners who trusted my designs would actually work. With community leaders who knew I listened before I drew. I spent nearly 2 decades building those relationships deliberately. I attended every city council meeting that involved housing policy. I volunteered my time to design community centers and senior housing. I knew the names of the foremen on my job sites and the preferences of every planning department inspector in the metro area. When my wife Sarah left 3 years ago, said she was tired of being married to someone who cared more about other people's housing than our own financial future. Those relationships held me steady. Contractors sent condolences. City officials checked in on me. Community leaders reminded me that the work mattered more than any individual project. That's when Morrison Development Group started making overtures about acquiring my firm. Christine Walsh arrived 9 months ago with an MBA from Kellogg and theories about optimizing design efficiency for maximum profitability. She looked at my community-focused approach and saw waste. Too much time spent on site visits, too much attention to local preferences, too much emphasis on long-term durability instead of short-term profit margins. We need to standardize the design process, she told me during our first meeting. Create template floor plans that can be efficiently replicated across multiple projects. Reduce customization costs through economies of scale. I nodded and kept designing, but I started noticing changes. My access to new project proposals was restricted. Client meetings were scheduled without including me. New developments were being designed by junior architects using generic templates that could have been built anywhere. Last month, I overheard Christine on a conference call with Morrison's regional director. Robert's methods are inefficient. He's too emotionally invested in these community relationships. We can increase profit margins by 35% with standardized designs and streamlined approval processes. That's when I knew my days were numbered. Not because I was failing, but because I was succeeding in ways that MBA textbooks don't measure. I made some quiet preparations, updated some business registrations, made sure certain professional relationships were properly documented under the right legal entities. Christine thought she was eliminating an obstacle to efficient development. She had no idea she was about to learn the difference between designing buildings and actually understanding communities. Friday afternoon, I cleaned out my office and said goodbye to the junior architects who'd learned their craft working on my projects. They looked at me with questions I couldn't answer yet, but I saw the understanding in their eyes. They knew what Morrison was becoming. Keep designing for the people who actually live in these places, I told them. Don't let the spreadsheets make you forget that architecture is about human beings. I drove home to my house in Highlands Ranch and sat on the deck with a bourbon, looking out at a subdivision I'd helped design 15 years earlier. Families were coming home from work. Kids were playing in yards that I positioned to maximize safety and community interaction. 18 years of work that had actually improved people's lives. My phone rang. Miguel Santos from Front Range Construction. Robert, heard through the grapevine that you might be making some changes. Wanted to check in. Actually, Miguel, I'm thinking about going independent again. Focusing on what I do best, community-centered design. Question for you. If I started my own practice again, would Front Range be interested in exclusive partnership agreements? Better terms than what you get working through the big development groups? Miguel was quiet for a moment. Robert, you know damn well that 80% of our residential work comes from projects you brought us. If you're asking whether we'd rather work with you directly or deal with whatever corporate project manager they stick in your place, that's not even a question. I made 11 more calls that evening. Same conversation, same response. By Saturday morning, I had commitments from every contractor, subcontractor, and supplier I'd worked with over the past decade. Not just to work with my new firm, but to terminate their preferred vendor agreements with Morrison Development Group. The beautiful thing about construction relationships is that most contractor agreements have 30-day termination clauses. Standard protection in an industry where cash flow and project delays can kill businesses overnight. Contractors can't be locked into deals with developers who don't pay on time. And developers can't be stuck with contractors who don't deliver quality work. What Christine didn't understand was that those contractors had been working with me, not with Morrison. When I left, the relationships left with me. I spent Saturday registering Caldwell Community Design as an LLC and setting up business accounts. By Sunday evening, I had a functioning architectural practice operating out of my home office. Monday morning, I sent out termination notices. 12 major contractors and suppliers. 30-day notice. Professional, courteous, and completely legal. Then I sat back and waited. Christine was about to discover that firing the architect who built your entire contractor network was like demolishing the foundation of your business model. Tuesday morning, Christine Walsh walked into her pristine office expecting a routine day of design optimization. Instead, she found her assistant holding a stack of certified letters, looking confused and slightly panicked. "These came by courier this morning," she said. "Contract terminations." "Miguel's on a job site all morning," the receptionist said. "Can I take a message? This is about the termination notice." "There must be some mistake." "No mistake. Miguel was very clear about the decision. I need to speak with him today. This is urgent. I'll let him know you called." The line went dead. Christine tried Rocky Mountain Electrical next. Same story. The owner wasn't available. Neither was the project manager or the estimator. By lunch, she had called every terminated contractor. None of them would take her calls. She pulled up the vendor files on her computer, looking for leverage, contract terms, penalty clauses, anything that could force them to honor their agreements, which she found made her stomach drop. Every major contractor agreement had been updated during 2022, during the post-pandemic construction boom. All of them included standard 30-day termination clauses with no penalties. But there was something else that made her blood run cold. The primary contact listed on every contract wasn't Morrison Development Group Management. It was Robert J. Caldwell, Senior Design Director. Christine stared at her screen. She had fired the guy whose name was on every crucial contractor relationship, the guy who had apparently structured those relationships to follow him wherever he went. Her phone rang. Regional Vice President David Kim. "Christine, I'm getting calls from project managers across 3 states. They're saying our contractor network is falling apart. What's going on?" "We had some contractor relationship issues. I'm handling it." "Handling it how?" "We have 6 developments under construction and 4 more scheduled to break ground next month. If we can't fulfill our contractor commitments, we're looking at millions in delays and penalties." Christine felt panic rising in her chest. "I'll call our contractors and resolve this." "You better. If we lose project timelines because of contractor disputes, there will be serious consequences." After Kim hung up, Christine sat in her office trying to process the magnitude of the crisis. Robert Caldwell had been fired on Friday. By Tuesday, their entire construction network was collapsing. She called HR. "Paul, I need Robert Caldwell's personal contact information. We have urgent business matters to discuss." "I can't release personal information on former employees. Company policy. This is a business emergency. We're facing contractor shortages. You'll need legal approval for that kind of request." Christine hung up and immediately called legal. They told her it would take at least a week to process the request, possibly longer. By Wednesday morning, the situation was catastrophic. Project managers were calling in panic. Construction schedules were being abandoned. Subcontractors were walking off job sites because the primary contractors had terminated their agreements. Christine finally swallowed her pride and drove to Robert's house in Highlands Ranch. She found him in his home office, working on architectural drawings with the focused concentration she remembered from before the acquisition. "Robert," she said when he answered the door, "we need to talk." He looked at her with the same calm professionalism he'd shown during their termination meeting. "Christine, what can I do for you? You know exactly what you can do. Your contractors are refusing to work with us." Robert stepped back and gestured for her to come in. "They're not my contractors anymore. I don't work for Morrison, remember? You eliminated my position." "This is professional sabotage. This is market economics. You wanted to optimize operations and reduce relationship maintenance costs. I'm starting my own practice. Turns out good contractors prefer working with architects who understand their business over corporate managers who see them as interchangeable vendors." Christine felt desperation creeping into her voice. "What do you want?" Robert smiled, the same patient smile he'd used when explaining design concepts to confused clients. I want to offer Morrison Development Group a solution. Caldwell Community Design can provide full architectural and contractor coordination services for developments that prioritize community integration and construction quality. At what cost? My consulting fee is 25% of architectural costs, plus contractor coordination fees. Given the relationships I've built and the project success rate I can guarantee, it's quite reasonable. Christine's heart sank. 25% markup on hundreds of thousands in architectural fees, plus additional coordination costs, meant Robert would be making significantly more as their consultant than he ever had as their employee. That's extortion. Robert's expression didn't change. That's market value. Last week I was overhead to be eliminated. Today, I'm the only solution to your contractor crisis. Supply and demand, Christine. They probably covered that at Kellogg. Christine had no choice. Morrison had construction commitments that would cost millions if delayed. Fine, but I want ironclad contracts that protect Morrison's interests. Of course. I'll have my attorney draft something fair for both parties. Contractor relationships will be restored immediately. Your projects will be completed on schedule and on budget. As Christine drove back to Morrison's offices, she realized what had just happened. She had fired Robert to increase efficiency and reduce costs. Instead, she had created a situation where he now controlled their entire construction operation from the outside and was making more money than he'd ever earned as an employee. 6 months later, Caldwell Community Design had expanded to work with 8 development companies across Colorado and Wyoming. The contractor relationships Robert had cultivated over 18 years became the foundation for a business that prioritized community development over pure profit maximization. Christine Walsh lasted another 4 months at Morrison Development Group before accepting a position with a commercial real estate firm in Phoenix. The contractor crisis had been resolved, but her reputation as a manager was permanently damaged. Robert kept the business focused and personal. No corporate headquarters, no layers of bureaucracy. Just experienced architects and skilled contractors working together to build communities where people actually wanted to live. On a Thursday evening in November, Robert sat in his home office reviewing the week's project reports. Every development was on schedule and under budget. Every contractor had been paid promptly. No emergencies, no crises, no angry calls from project managers dealing with construction delays. His phone rang. Carlos Rivera from Rivera Family Construction. Robert, we're expanding into the Springs market next year. Interested in partnering on some affordable housing projects down there? Always interested in good work, Carlos. Send me the details. After he hung up, Robert looked at the photo of his father's construction crew on his desk. The old man would have been proud. Not because his son had gotten revenge on the people who fired him, but because he had built something meaningful from what they tried to throw away. Sometimes the best response to being undervalued is proving your worth on your own terms. In architecture, as in life, the strongest foundations are built on relationships that can weather any storm.